Yeah, welcome everyone. Yeah, working basically 7 years, more than 7 years now at PTV. Always been with Vissim, and I really like it. Yeah, now in product management, responsible for the Vissim and Viswalk development. And I'm also very happy to present you the new feature of Vissim and Viswalk 2022. So yeah, we also have different categories. Main use case is the vehicle simulation, of course, but also there are some features, quite some for pedestrian simulation and public transport, which is related to pedestrian simulation, and then some more general signal control handling and visualization. So the first on vehicle simulation is the emission calculation. We believe now, because of climate change and these topics, and we see more and more the need and fundings to simulate also emissions in transportation studies. Transportation sector is one of the also a significant polluter, and we believe that there might be more and more projects needed also besides some traffic performance indicator that you also show what is the impact in terms of emissions, can you save emissions or not. We have an existing solution in Viver, which is a different model compared to the new solution with Bosch. In Viver is a separate program, you need to install it, you need to learn it and do it. The new solution now with Bosch, I think it's very convenient. You use it inside Vissim, and you get the results as other Vissim results, and you can make use of them. How it works, if you have an existing model or you create a new model, you can very simply calculate emissions with this new add-on. So you just need to prepare your model, define emission class distribution, and assign them, and I'll show you quickly how it works here. So there is in base data distribution emission class, there is this emission class distribution. If you would add a new one, you see on the right hand side there are a total of 182 different emissions class. This is basically coming from HWEFA, standard here in Germany, about the engines, Euro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if it's diesel, gasoline, and also if it's city bus, rigid truck, coach, and whatever. And then you see here the share, and if we just look here, okay, everything is 0 here, and you need to enter what is the share in terms of percentage. That is very a hard task to do. That's why we deliver currently network, an example network, with Vissim. So if you read additionally this HWEFA emission class distribution, which comes with all Vissim installation, and you read, mark none for reading, you only read the emission class distribution, then you have here 4 different countries. Sweden is there, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, UK currently not, but this is something we can extend. And then, for example, if we look at Germany rural for passenger cars, and we look at the shares, no, they are equals not 0. Here you see these are the current distribution for urban areas of passenger cars, which are the vehicles, and you just need to assign them then to here the vehicle types. Emission class distribution. It's already assigned here, so you assign here one of them, and then you basically run the simulation. That's everything what you need for preparation. In the simulation, you need to activate the evaluation, of course. In your evaluation, activate Bosch. You need to activate vehicle network performance or link evaluation. That's the 2 current evaluations which are supported. And then you just run the simulation, and after the simulation run, automatically the trajectories of vehicles will be uploaded to Bosch. We're not sending information about your network. We only send the distance traveled of vehicles, the gradient, and this emission type. So similar to a desired speed, if a vehicle enters a network, is one specific emission class is being taken from the distribution and assigned to a vehicle, and all that will be sent up to the Bosch cloud, and Bosch will calculate then based on this information the emissions, as they do also for real vehicle. So they do that now also for simulated vehicles. So step 3 is just wait a little bit for the results. It takes usually a little bit longer than a simulation run because of the upload and download and the emission calculation. And then you have your data in link evaluations, link segments, and also vehicle network performance, and you can visualize the result as seen here on the right-hand picture. The NOx emissions here in this example network, you can show as other traffic performance indicators, and you can make use of them in your videos. You can use link bars, everything you know from Vissim, which brings Vissim as visualization. So the method is just based on single vehicle trajectories, which we send out. These are the current output supported: CO2, CO, NOx, and HC, and particle mass, fuel consumption as well. Take in mind that emission calculation is very sensitive to acceleration. So often you don't use acceleration and calibrate it to the real conditions. So just keep that in mind. But we still think even with maybe not exact acceleration distributions, you still might get, if you compare two scenarios to each other, good results, relative results. And then, yeah, as I said, this evaluation visualization. Limitation currently in the Bosch, this is a very precise model what Bosch is using. They showed it also with real world data, compared it, calibrated it. They use also different temperatures for the engine and the catalysator. And so when vehicles enter the network, they start as they would drive for the first second. So they have a cold catalysator, which affects emissions. So if you want to take that into account, rather make a 1 minute dummy link or something, that the vehicle, if they enter the network, they are already warm. Currently, only HVEFA classes are supported, that can be extended. And currently, it's not individual vehicle don't have the emission. So we could also post the emission results in the vehicle record, but it's currently not supported. It requires an add-on module, this Bosch emission, and of course, because it's calculated in the cloud, it requires an internet connection. You'll find more information in a webinar, which we hold in July 2021, and test licenses are available, of course. So please contact Ephraim, and then we can make an arrangement that you get some test licenses to test it. So the other vehicle simulation feature is the mesoscopic simulation. Annette presented that just for Visum, and the same is also in Vissim, this time loss due to merging. She explained it, there's this new attribute, Meso penalty. And if a vehicle exits from a Meso node on the same link, but enters from a different lane, different link, then this penalty is applied, and that helps you to calibrate your model at merging areas. And also the look ahead for lane chains has been explained by Annette just now. So the old method, you may know, Meso vehicles can only change lanes in nodes. So, and they only see one node ahead. So they know here, okay, in the next node, I need to exit here. So they do the lane change here at that position. Now with this look ahead distance, you know it from Vissim. If you're a normal Vissim user, on the links, there's this look ahead distance. Now it's also be considered in a mesoscopic simulation, and they may do the lane change already here, depending, of course, on the lane change distance. So an incomplete feature is reverse parking. We did quite some effort in developing parking. First, there was the reverse in parking evaluations, the car park creator, and the next topic is then also that vehicles park backwards in, as you see here in the picture. That is currently in development, not finished yet. I've seen some first previews. Not everything completed yet, but soon we'll make that feature available in a service pack of Vissim 2022. So there will be new values for the parking lot attributes, parking direction. Currently it's backwards, forwards. And of course, there is then additionally the reverse, forward, and any. So that means also that in a parking lot, vehicles can choose to go forward in or backwards in. Both is possible. It depends then on the relative flow. Yeah, there are some extension to the connector, and yeah, the route is also, of course, important. As I said, that can be backwards or forwards in. Yeah. And again, we will also update the car park creator, and that's the tool to create your car park that will also support the reverse in parking. Now switching to the pedestrian simulation. So the first one is these different stairs with landings, which often exist like in stations. Previously, you would have to add here a ramp, stairs, then an area, another one, and blah, blah, blah. It continues, quite difficult to model. And now directly in the ramp and stairs, you can select the different shapes, and you can select, for example, the straight with 3 landings, and you can enter the geometries of that. So what is the distance here, here, and it's quite convenient to just add these stairs with multiple landings. The other feature is something I want to show you live. So switch here. Multi-route adding. So if we have pedestrian routes, like we have these here, then once previously, if I changed one route, the selection of all other objects was lost, and it only selected this one. And this is new now that the selection is kept, and so I can easily update all my routes. So the pedestrians, they always walk to the circle and back. And for those of you who have been modeled pedestrian networks and worked with routes, that's quite handy to do now. And the same is also with if you have multiple pedestrian routes, as here, and you want now to all routes to move up here. You can do that if you right-click here on that route top and then select Add Route Point for all static routes. So you don't need to do that for each and every one. And then there's a selection, okay, do you want to have as first routing point after the routing decision or as a new routing destination? So you can change the destination of all of these routes. I add an intermediate point. So that's the first point. And I can, as you can see here, I can move all of them up here. And I could continue like that, add a new route position and before, in the middle, or afterwards. And I can select it and multiple edit of routes. So this makes it easier to work with routing, because in pedestrian simulation, sometimes you have really a lot of routes. And now if you forgot something, you can easily switch them to other places. Good. There's a new attribute, dwell time, for pedestrians. So that gives you more control, like how long pedestrians are waiting, and that could then become like a trigger. You wait for something, so you can set like the dwell time. You can increase the dwell time. Here it's an extreme highest number of Vladimir Estragon, and once someone arrived, then you can change that number to 0, and then they will start. So they wait for another person. If that person arrives, then they all continue to work. So something like that can now be modeled rather easy with this new attribute dwell time, which is editable during the simulation run. So another evaluation for pedestrian simulation is these two new attributes, number of stops and the total stop time. So as you see here in area measurement results, there is this number of stops, 138 pedestrians have to be stopped So it could be, of course, less pedestrians because the average stop per pedestrian is 4.48, and the stop time here, you see that also in the pedestrian network evaluation. So this evaluates just when it happens, and as a definition, if the walking speed is less than 0.2 meters per second, then it's assumed as a stop or calculated as a stop. And the last one improvement for pedestrian simulation is the import of shapefiles. So if you have a shapefile, you can import it and read as different pedestrian simulation elements. Now to public transport. That is the main use case of pedestrian simulation, to model stations. And the first improvement is that we support now also going in different directions, similar to the reverse in parking. So that is now a terminus station. The train arrived, pedestrians alight and board, and then it continues in the opposite direction. Same with the others. So therefore, you need to have an overlapping link in the inverse direction at the stop. And there is a new attribute, this change of driving direction, that needs to be active. And you can even continue the line route. Even if there's no connection, you can use a partial PT route, or you create a dummy U-turn link downstream. So then you have a complete public transport route with this stop, and then continue in the opposite direction. The other improvement is that you can define in your 2D, 3D models areas where you don't have passengers. For example, here at the top, you have normally the driver, the train driver, and no pedestrians. If you enter that, so you can say, okay, 3 meters here in the front, there is no passengers on the train. Then also when generating the alighting pedestrians, no pedestrian is generated here, and that will then result in more realistic pedestrians coming from different positions here and to alight at the doors. And the third extension for station modeling is now you can set up, okay, if you arrive at a waiting area, you can define, okay, how long will the passengers walk to a waiting position. So previously they just distributed equally around all the waiting area, but now you can define, okay, they already know where are the stops of the doors, so they wait at these certain locations, or they are very lazy, so they just walk a little bit. So that are the different use cases that can be modeled. Or if you know, okay, now there's a small train coming and only part of the entire platform is being used, you can use that distribution so that all of them wait in the first half and not going to the second half. So that can be used now with the new distance distribution. And then there's the formula-based line selection. So currently at a platform, there's just a relative flow, the relative volume, which PT line to be used, so for which they wait. But now you can additionally have a filter and say, okay, a certain person, they don't use that PT line, or they only use that one. For example, if they have a UDA of destination, or if they, I don't know, but this is now possible that you model specifically, like, okay, these pedestrian, they come from that area and they want to go exactly to this PT line. This is possible now. Good. So far with pedestrian simulation, we come to signal control. Signal control, there's a new signal state sequence, which is flashing amber. It's in Switzerland. I'm not sure, not so familiar with the UK. If you use that, probably not so much. Otherwise, we would have heard it. It's available now. The larger improvement, and this is something also which is in Visum and Net presented it, that we have the SIG file internally now. So that means you don't need to send the SIG files. Probably all of you have once forgotten to attach a SIG file, and the other one could not, the sender could not simulate because the SIG file is missing. I experience that quite often, and that cannot happen anymore because the information of the SIG file sits now inside of Vissim in attributes, similar to Visum. You can still export it. You can write your SIG files, and of course, if you read in, as with Visum, if you read in an old version of Vissim with SIG files, it automatically converts them. The other improvement is the ring barrier controller. We implemented our own ring barrier controller, and we still do. So it's already available. Ring barrier controller is the main logic which is used in the United States for signal control. The old one was very slow. We couldn't do extensions because it was an external controller, and now we can do these extensions. And also we will not be able to distribute it globally, which is possible now. So you can also make use of ring barrier controller. And for vehicle controller communication, there is now the method that vehicles send the data to the signal controller of the next signal head. If there is this map lane, as this is currently a user-defined attribute, you need to add that. And if you have this user-defined attribute, the vehicles, they send their vehicle number, their vehicle type, their speed, the distance, and the expected time of arrival at the signal head to the signal controller, and the signal controller can then make use of it. So far, this is only be used by Lisa Plus from version 8. And of course, in your own signal controller DLL, so in the interface, it's included. So if you program your own or have your own, you can directly make use of that. Handling. So attribute decisions and attribute modifications, they are very powerful. They can do a lot. We had some challenges on LinkedIn. Some of you may have followed with some very interesting models. So you don't need to script anymore. You can use formulas, filters to make these decisions. And we now combined basically what the functionality of attribute decisions, which are local decisions of vehicles crossing a cross section or pedestrian arriving at the area, and attribute modifications, which can make changes to your model at certain times in the simulation. We combine the functionality now, meaning attribute decision, they got the filters and the formulas, which were previously only for attribute modifications, and attribute modification, they have now also that you can assign values from a distribution. And yeah, and change is of course the main use case. They are used by location and the other one by time. So location search, as Annette previously showed, it's always been a little bit annoying if you are here at the world map and you need to find your location. And Annette also showed Wembley Stadium. If you enter that, you directly go to Wembley Stadium. And actually, if you zoom in, you'll see here 1966. Clearly, that wasn't a goal as a German. Yeah. Okay. License management. There is now an automatic hint. This is also for Visum and for Vissim. Like if there is a license update, you bought a new add-on module, or during summer, always if you have maintenance, then your license will always get an update. That is now shown directly in the software. So small notification, and with a single click, you can update then your license. So there's no ticket number required. That was already this year. Some of you may have done the update, like the license update like this, but in the future that will work also in that way. Also for the activation, update, and deactivation of licenses, you don't need to use this web depot anymore. So you can do that from the software directly, or there's a dedicated tool, the license management, and that can also do all what you have previously needed to be done through the web depot. Borrowing of licensing is easier. So also with that tool, it's rather easy. We improve the user experience. It's fewer steps needed to borrow a license if you have a network license which supports borrowing. And cloud licenses are available now. This is an advantage if you, for example, don't want to set up your network license. The network license is sits in the cloud, and we as PTV we can set it up for you, and you just get a certificate from us. And if you drag and drop that certificate to your version, then you directly can make use of this network license. So this is much easier, but it requires, of course, an internet connection. And there's a new online help specifically for license managing, which you may have seen before. So the last section is about visualization. So first one, scatter plots. So the charts have now an update that you can show two different attribute values in a diagram. For example, in that speed over flow, the number of vehicles here with different colors are different evaluation, different network elements. That's basically link measurements which use different driving behavior. Here, Wiedemann 74, Wiedemann 99, and the three different AV driving behavior and their relation in speed versus flow. But it could also be that different colors for different simulation runs, for different vehicle pedestrian classes, time intervals can be used. There is filters, there's aggregates for sub, so everything you know also from normal charts. Also that you can save layouts here and use that for other models is available. Yeah. So far you can only visualize persistent data, so data which is inside of Vissim. We think of, it's not yet a promise, but also we've been keen to hear from you. We think of to make that available also for vehicle records, so individual vehicle data that you can visualize that within Vissim. Potential improvement for the next version. Yeah, web map services, a feature we have been quite some time with Visum, is now available also in Vissim. Like if you have your customer, they have a map provider of a city or something. Now you can use this service and visualize as the background map. Just need to make sure sometimes they have some license conditions, these map providers, but you can make use of it. And as the configuration is as in Visum. You can even in Visum there are you can export them from Visum and import them in Vissim to make use of the same existing ones. So video recording, something we like also to see if you present your models. Now this dialogue, if you for the very first time recorded a dialogue, there was this very old, if you record a video, there's this very old dialogue where you need to select which codec to be used. We get rid of them. Within Vissim, there are different codecs now available. You have it in the list of your storyboards. You just select one and it will make use of it. And also for video recording, we changed the camera movement. So on the left-hand side, you see the old camera movement, and sometimes it gets out of focus. So you lose the intersection. And we implemented now, if you look on the right-hand side, a new way that always like the focus point stays in focus and the camera movement is automatically in a way that you always see the intersection. So both options are available. You could choose. So if you set up your camera positions in a previous model and want to keep it as in the old version, you can do that. But this new method is now available, and I think it's more attractive to most of you. A small improvement, but maybe very helpful, is that now for signal heads, stop signs, and also priority rules, you see these small arrows indicating the direction, so where to stop. Especially for pedestrian links, it was sometimes a little bit annoying on which link you put the signal head or the stop sign. So this is now clearly showing from which direction. So here's a mistake. So pedestrians, they don't need to stop when leaving the road, they need to stop coming to the road. So you may easier see these modeling errors than before, as here everything is correct. Yeah. So that's it. I think the last one was just that you can now also import PDFs directly as background images instead of making a screenshot, a PNG, and then importing it. So that's all the improvements, much more. As Annette was saying, please read the what's new. Please read also the release notes. There's more smaller functionality which you may find useful in your model. And until then hopefully see you next time when we present the new features of the version 2023. Thank you very much.